And welcome back to Music Free Static. I hope you're having a fabulous day. And today we are going to take a spoiler-filled dive into Star Wars Skeleton Crew. Yes, it is another, well, maybe not so really late movie review of the new Star Wars series that wrapped up last week as you're listening to this. And I need to give you a real quick background for myself here. I didn't like the movie Goonies. Okay, I've never liked the movie Goonies. Goonies was not enjoyable for me in any way, shape, or form. In fact, most of those kids on bikes type movies, just, they never did it for me. Okay, E.T. was kind of cute, but all right, whatever. I said Goonies was right out. Monster Squad was kind of okay. Had a good line or two, but just not really my jam. Okay. And Skeleton Crew, at its heart, is a kids on bikes story. Okay. Heck, it even has a scene of the kids racing on their bikes to save the day in the last episode. Okay. Now, yes, they are hover bikes and not pedal bikes, but still, it's a thing. So I want you to have this in the back of your mind here as I go through this, because this is not a story that works for me in a lot of ways, at least in the beginning. Okay. The Skeleton Crew had a really slow start for me. Okay. I was not clicking at all for basically the first half of the series. The first 4 episodes just did not work for me. Now, a lot of that is because I didn't buy into what they were doing with the kids. Okay, I didn't like Fern. She was a bully. You know, she was making up stories to sound tough, right? I just was not into that sort of that character. Okay, Wim was kind of set up to be the leader or protagonist of the group, something like that, and he just sort of came across as whiny. All right. Neel, on the other hand, was your typical scared kid who did not actually want to have adventures. Okay, he liked playing pretend. It's like, yes, we will pretend to be Jedi. We'll pretend to be on, to save the world. Did not want to be there. He was one of the redeeming aspects of the first half of this series. Okay, and the whole thing in general. I liked Neel. Neel was great, and the effects they had on him as this little elephant kid was just adorable. Okay, there's one scene in, I don't know, I think it was episode 2 or 3 maybe, and he's sitting there hiding from bad guys. Actually, maybe it was episode 4, but he's there hiding from bad guys, and his little trunk is just wiggling. It's just so freaking cute. Okay. The effects on Neel were great. Okay. Heck, the effects in most of this series was actually really good. Okay. So we'll get to that, I think. But Neel I liked. KB I liked. She was sort of an engineer type. She had these augments, which were cool, and we find out a little bit more about them later. But she was fun. The problem is, for like the first 4 episodes or so, she's just kind of hanging out in the background. She has almost nothing to do. She's just also there. Now, later we get a lot more with KB, and she actually becomes a character and not a prop. Okay, and that's great. But man, it took a long time to get there. And actually, with most of the kids, eventually I warmed up to them. Especially KB and Neel. Fern, kinda, sorta. I never did like Wim. Okay. And again, this is just a me thing. All right. If you liked him, great. That's fabulous. This is me, my tastes. Okay. That's not to say Wim doesn't do some fun stuff in the series. He does. But it's just like, all right. He's still sort of this a little bit of a whiny kid. Okay. Now, all of that said, their parents were horrifically one dimensional. I mean, I mean, I don't think you ever hear Neel's dad say anything. He just stands there looking menacing. Um, Not like it was intentional, but he's a bull elephant and just looks kind of menacing just because of that. Okay. Otherwise, he seems fine. I said Neel's family was great, and his little siblings were just cute as all heck. But as I said, the effects and stuff on this show were really good. But Kim's parents, yeah, they exist, right? They're there. They express their concern that KB's got uh, a medical condition. Okay, yeah, and said her augments do need maintenance from time to time, and that becomes an issue later in the show. Wim's dad, he's an absentee dad, overworked and overworking. Okay, which is a subtle difference. Like he might have been able to take more time off, but he just didn't. Okay, and yeah, not I did not like his dad. Even towards episode 8, where he actually gets some more time. Yeah, he's just honestly, he and Wim are very, very much related, right? Because Wim's dad is very much just a whiny type of guy. So, okay, whatever. And then Fern's mom, who was, I think she might be one of the parents who sees the most growth, and yeah, she is your boy. You she's the type of mom you hear about all the time in these types of stories. The demanding you have to be the top of your class because there's only so much space at the top, and so you have to be the number one and get the best grades and all of that stuff. And yeah, she grows a little bit, but yeah, none of the parents really. You never really get enough time with them to know them for one thing and to care about them for another, other than the fact that kids care about them. Which honestly, the story's about the kids, so I guess that's not that big a deal, but it's something to be considered. Okay, but eventually, as I said, I kind of warmed up to the kids, but man, it took 4 episodes to get there. Now there were some interesting things going on. Um, some mysteries they set up that was actually great and actually give you some answers to them, and it was fun. Like the first is, what is the deal with At-Atten, right? What their planet At-Atten? Anytime they go, nobody knows about it, or it's a myth. It's like a mythical treasure planet, right? To these kids, it's the suburbs. Okay, and I thought that was sort of a fun twist of they're not just trying to find a mystical X that marks the spot, right? They live on the X that marks the spot. They know it exists. It's not a mystery that their planet exists, but nobody knows how to get there. Nobody knows what it is because it's a myth, right? And yeah, we do eventually find out what it is. And again, spoiler-filled review: At-Atten is a mint. They are literally making money for we don't know how long enough that they filled up over 1,000 vaults with Republic credits, and it's straight and said they've the fact that we don't know how long is sort of interesting. Okay, that we definitely know there's a barrier up that prevents communication from coming in and out. Right? They do know about Jedi. They don't know that Alderaan has ceased to exist. Heck, they don't know the Republic has fallen. Okay, so they've certainly been hidden for that long. But based off of some of the conversations that some of the kids are having with their parents, the parents don't know what's going on very much, right? It's just not happening. They don't know that. We don't know how long that the parents don't know what's happening in the outside world. So, obviously they've been hidden for a while. And they were hidden obviously through the entire Galactic Civil War. They may have been hidden throughout the Clone Wars. I could see that, right? I could see the Mint being hidden so that the Separatists can't find the planet, right? So that's now you're going back a couple of generations, and maybe a little further. It's hard to say, right? But that's fascinating as they spin that out over the course of the series. Okay, and then Jod Nanawood, who he is a pirate through and through. Okay, he's got some capabilities with the Force, but he is definitely not a Jedi, and I'm glad he's not a Jedi. Okay, now actually his backstory is kind of fun. They give you a little bit in season 8, episode 8. Jod, he was ragged, as how he describes himself, and living on the fringes, it sounds like. And he is found by a Jedi who is also ragged, right? And it sounds like it was a Jedi who was fleeing Order 66, bumped into Jod, and briefly, and I think that's important, briefly took Jod under her wing and started to train him. And this is why you hear Jod drop some of those Jedi teachings, like attachments are bad and your focus determines your reality. He actually quotes that from the Qui-Gon Jinn's famous line. So he's had some training. He can make things fly, right? He could float things over to him with the Force. He can make sounds happen. But he is not a fully trained Jedi in any way, shape, or form. He was trained a little bit, and then he was forced to watch while the Jedi killed his master. Okay. Surprised they left him alive and didn't take him to be an Inquisitor. That sort of lines up with a lot of the story that's happening in the galaxy at the time, but whatever. But yeah, there is a little bit of good in Jod. He never seems to really want to hurt the kids or their parents, even when he really starts diving into the threats. Okay. So, yeah. So, they spit out Jod's backstory and his character. And it's sort of interesting to find out who he is. And I'm glad in a lot of ways that Jod never gets a redemption arc. Okay. I think that tends to get overused in Star Wars. And while I believe in redemption, not everybody wants to be redeemed. Right? So that was awesome. As I said, there's a lot about the series I liked. Most of it happened in the last 4 episodes. Now, episode 3, they meet a character named Kim. She is an owl, basically. And boy, that looked good. The effects on Kim as this owl person looked great. Okay. Most of the rest of the episode is, story-wise was iffy other than the fact that it's the next step in the treasure hunt, right? But the effects look great. I liked when they so they episode 4 they go to a planet where, boy, it was almost a waste of an episode. The planet is almost a mirror image of At-Atten. The city's the same. The kids recognize it. It's like, oh, there's my school. There's my. There's the building that looks like their school. All the city is built the same. This is definitely a situation where the Republic built carbon copies of the planets, right? Now, I thought it was going to be something kind of fun, like, oh, I don't know, maybe the barrier was actually a time barrier of some sort. But no, it was just another planet at Akron, which, I'm not sure how much different it looks from Akron, Ohio, but it was not fabulous. The only thing you find out is that, hey, there's a turbo laser on top of the school, which becomes important later. And the series did a good job of kind of setting up a few of those types of things, right? But episode 5, I thought, was a fun twist on a lot of the pirate type stories, right? These types of treasure hunt stories. Here's SM-33. They've got his memory unlocked so he can guide them on the next step of the journey. And SM-33 is a droid character. It was kind of fun. Yeah, I liked SM-33. Not enough to have talked about him in the character discussion, but I liked SM-33. But yeah, it's the very typical pirate, we need to be going to Skull Ridge Mountain, right? And of course you have to go to Skull Ridge Mountain. The Skull Mountain, right, it's like a thing in all of these type of pirate movies. And they go to Skull Ridge Mountain, and it is a luxury resort and spa. Yes, it has been completely taken over. It is a spa. They have conventions. There is a banking convention happening at the spa, right? That's what it is. And I thought it was a fun twist. And yes, underneath the spa is the pirate treasure and all that fun stuff. But I thought that was a fun twist of you show up and now you have to hack your way through a jungle or whatever. No, it's, can you get past the buffet without gorging yourself? This is the problem so many of us have, right? So that was fun. And you had your basic Indiana Jones, Lara Croft type tomb, right? It even had a little bit of a Legend of Zelda type feel for me, right? But it's all right. Let's work out the puzzles in each room to get where we need to go. Okay. And there's a character follow-ups that looked really cool, but it kind of looked like a little bit of a cross with Dr. Seuss and something. I'm not entirely sure, but it had a very Seussian look about him. And he was very cool. He was friendly and helpful, and one of the messages that came out of the series was, yes, the outside world is scary, but there's some good people there too. And that is actually a really cool, that's a really cool message. And you get to see Tholops said was friendly and helpful. They run into a woman. She's standing outside of what's probably a brothel, and she finds the kids, and it's like, yeah, we need to get you out of here and back home. Kim is very helpful, right? You get that as they go through. It's like, yeah, there are scary things going on. The pirates are not great, but there are helpful people everywhere you go. There are good people everywhere you go. And that is a wonderful message, okay? Episode 6, there was a lot of fun stuff in episode 6, as the kids are now running from Jod, who has turned on them now that he's found treasure and possibly the way to At-Atten. But we get a lot of quality time with KB this episode. They split the party in a different way, because The kids come into it as pairs, right? You've got Neel and Wim are best friends. You've got Fern and KB are best friends, and they split the party. So you get Wim and KB and Fern and Neel. And the Fern and Neel stuff is kind of, there's some good character stuff that happens there. But the stuff with KB is great. Okay, she is a wonderful character as once you get to know her. And you find out that, yeah, she had some injury. She's got her augments that without them, she's basically paralyzed. And she needs Wim's help to kind of, in a lot of ways, it's changing the batteries, but it's a little bit more involved in that. But yeah, it was great to spend time with her, to hear some of her issues. Is that, yeah, she's had this injury. It affects her in a lot of ways. But because you can't see it as well, other than the fact, yeah, she's got this, headband almost. Yeah. In some ways, it's very much a Geordie LaForge type visor, right? But because you can't see it, Fern tends to forget that she has disabilities in any way, and it causes problems for KB and how she deals with people. And that was so great and heartfelt as she talks about it. That was, from a character perspective, in a lot of ways, episode 6 might have been my favorite episode. Plus, it was just a lot of fun, but 6 might have been my favorite episode in that way. Now, that said, all of the episodes going forward, they get better. Like I said, the first half of the show really did not work for me. And then as things start really ramping up through a little bit in episode 4, and then episode 5 through 8, they just keep getting more fun and more exciting. And though that part was good, I love that part. So the first half, not so much. But there was a great interaction in episode 7, right? So to back up, in episode 1, kids are kids. They find the ship buried in the ground, and Neel's like, I claimed it for us. And Fern's like, well, I call unclaimsies and claim it for the kids, or claim it for the girls. I was like, you can't call unclaimsies, or you can and when, and realize that unclaimsies is totally a thing. In whatever culture these kids have, right? It's unclaimsies is totally a thing, right? And think back to when you were a kid. Whatever friends or what your school, the kids at your school had those sorts of weird rules about things. And yeah, unclaimsies is totally a thing, apparently, for Fern and her group. And so here they are on the Onyx Cinder. Jod has taken back the ship according to the pirate code, and SM-33 is programmed to serve the captain. So he's now helping Jod instead of the kids. And here's Fern saying, I call unclaimsies and claim the ship back for the kids. And Jod's like, afraid it doesn't work like that. And SM-33 is, aye, but it be close enough. And he just takes out Jod and goes, it was such a fun little twist. It's like, yeah, we call unclaimsies. Like, no adult is going to buy into the concept of unclaimsies. But SM-33 did, and it was just a fun deal. I don't remember, there wasn't a whole lot. There was a lot that happens in episode 7. Good, bad, and otherwise, but that part was just a shining moment in that episode, which otherwise was actually kind of fun. As they're back at Atten, the pirates are there. They're trying to get through and all the fun stuff, right? And then episode 8 hits, and Jod learns how to bring his pirate frigate down onto the planet, and start this pirate invasion of the suburbs, right? Now, those suburbs, yeah, were mostly helpless against it, especially because Jod has sort of taken over the security robots. If they had invaded the suburbs where I grew up, oh yeah, it would have, the residents would have been shooting back. Okay. So I lived in a section of the suburbs that would not have taken that. But regardless, you get to see the kids really come into their own. Neel, you knew from the minute he sees the turbo laser on at Akron, which again, it's a built, you say, oh yeah, this is our school, and that's, everything's laid out the same. You knew as soon as they would get back to Atten, Neel would find this turbo laser and would probably use it to fight the pirates. You're just sort of waiting for it to happen. But when it does, it's still great. And the kids splitting up. It's like, okay, we need to get to the supervisor's office to do this thing. And we need to get the ship out to pass the barrier to send a signal to call the Republic for help, because they were, as the episode calls it, the real good guys, right? And yeah, it was what? KB getting back to the Onyx Cinder, escaping with the help of SM-33, which is kind of fun. It's because, 33 got decapitated, and so here's the droid body, and she's holding his head up so he can see. Right? It was fun. He later comes out walking out of the ship holding his head under his arm, right? Oh yeah, definitely fun. And then, when the New Republic does show up to fight off the pirates, of course you get X-wings coming in, and here comes a Corellian frigate. Or no, it wasn't a frigate. It was a boy. I'm blanking on the ship. It's like Leia's ship. Okay, like the Tantive 4, whatever it was. Yep, that type of ship. Corellian cruiser, right? But you also got B-Wings. We haven't seen B-Wings since Return of the Jedi, at least in live action. We saw them in Rebels, and we got to see what B-Wings could actually do. Heck, in Return of the Jedi, I don't think you actually see B-Wings do anything. They show up, the wings come out, so they get their classic cruciform look. But I don't think you ever see them fight. But, you see them in Rebels, and they've got this sort of, like how the Death Star has its big cannon with a bunch of lasers come together and form giant super laser O'Doom. Yeah, turns out the B-Wings do something similar and just wreak havoc on ships. And they do that here, and I loved it. It's like, yes, this is why you have B-Wings. Why have we not seen these? Why, it was great to see them again, okay? And so, yeah, it was fun. Now, what's interesting, well, I'll get to the end of the series in a minute, because I liked it, but it had some interesting, there's some interesting aspects of it to it from a story perspective. Let's talk about some of the stuff I didn't like. Most of episodes 1 through 4 probably could have been cut. If they had made this a movie, a lot of that would have been gone. I'm almost certain. I just didn't click with it. Okay. Episode 4, it was really bizarre. I mean, you get Neel this is sort of Neel's episode, and it was not bad. But there's a scene, Jod gets taken by the other side in the Civil War. The kids go to one side, Jod goes up to the other. You never see him there. He just shows up again later, having bought the EOPs that the kids' side was missing. That's part of what they were fighting over. Yeah, Jod gets taken, and then he shows up completely unhurt. No idea what's going on. No explanation. Nothing. Just, yeah, he got out of it. It just felt really hand wavy, right? It just felt like you should have seen something. It's like, yeah, No. Okay. And then at the end of episode 8, so the barrier comes down, the Republic shows up, and Jod, at that point, kind of just gives up, drops his blaster. You know, Wim, Fern, and their parents escape, and it's just like, all right, I guess I lose now. He just done. I'm done. I lose. It just seemed really fast. I didn't. I didn't quite understand why he gave up so quickly. Okay. The other aspect of the end of this, the kids save the day. The Republic shows up. Hooray! We win. End credits. Right? There was no epilogue. There was nothing saying. You don't get the, hey, the kids are back in school and they're friends. You don't get the, hey, we're back in the galaxy again. You get none of that. Which is interesting, potentially going forward in the Star Wars universe, right? Are we going to see them as part of the Republic? Hey, congratulations, Mon Mothma. Here's an entire mint. You had trouble funding your New Republic before? Hey, here's the money. Okay. But there's something interesting about this series. Okay. There were no cameos. And there were no references to anything else that happened in the rest of the Mandoverse, which is when this takes place in the timeline. Right? You don't see Carson Teva in an X-Wing. You don't see Mando. You don't even get... Obviously, this is post the fall of the Empire. This is post Battle of Jakku. But that gives us basically a 10-year window when this could have happened. Now, there's been some talk of a Skeleton Crew Season 2 with the kids being older. You know, it's a couple of years later. And there's been some rumors that maybe Jod and or the kids might show up. Maybe as part of the New Republic movie that Dave Filoni is doing, or something else, right? Okay, that could be fine. But if that happens, the kids are obviously going to have grown up somewhat. That means this series might have actually happened in the Star Wars timeline before Mando. Before Mandalorian Season 1 is, when this might have happened. Okay? We don't know. Because we don't know, it does allow them to sort of slide back and forth in the timeline wherever they need this series to be. So that when the kids and Jod show up later, and I'm almost certain at least the kids are going to show up later. But when they show up later, we don't have to worry about, the kids look 4 years older, but it's only been 6 months. Okay. That is a problem when you're dealing with kids in sequels, right? The kids grow, right? You might be able to sort of hand wave it with an adult. It's hard to do with a 12-year-old. Okay. So, yeah, they could slide this episode or this series back in the timeline. And so, yeah, if you're watching this in chronological order, Skeleton Crew comes first. Okay, that would be good to know. And I'm actually curious to see what happens with these kids now, especially KB and Neel. Jod, I liked Jod, and he was played really well. Jude Law did a great job. And it would be great to see him again. I don't know if we will. Finances being what they are, did the show do well enough to justify another season? That's something that Lucasfilm will have to answer. And I don't know that I have an answer for it. However, I think I think the characters are interesting enough that if they show up in another episode of something, or they show up in a movie, I think it's going to be cool. I think that's going to be a good thing. So, yeah, so we'll see. We'll see. So overall, I rated this like a 4 out of 5, but almost all of that is based off the end of the last 4 episodes. And seriously, this is a series that you binge. Okay? This was not a series that was benefited by the weekly cuts here. It just did not. It didn't work, and sometimes I thought the episodes ended a little abruptly. I really felt like it was. It wasn't. It doesn't feel like it was designed as episodes, and you hear that a lot about a lot of the Disney Plus shows, whether it's Star Wars or Marvel, right? It feels like, oh, they took a movie or like a 4-hour movie and they sliced it up into 8 episodes. This kind of feels the same way. Okay. So binge this sucker. Okay. Most of the episodes are not long. Okay. This isn't going to be you're talking 8 episodes, maybe 4 to 5 hours of actual content. Okay. And I think this is going to be a lot better as a binge. I was hoping to be able to actually rewatch it before I did this. Didn't end up with the time to do that, but I am looking forward to watching this again at some point. Okay. I liked the end of this series well enough that I can sit through and endure the first few episodes. Okay. So yeah, check it out. This is one of those series. I've heard lots of people raving about it as well. This isn't one that's been like super divisive like The Acolyte or Obi-Wan was. I liked both of those. Okay. So yeah, I liked it. Check it out. Of course, it's on Disney Plus. And let me know what you think. Did you like it? Do you not? Do you like the Goonies? Do you like that type of Amblin kids on bikes story? Let me know. Drop a comment on Spotify if you're on YouTube. Of course, like or rate the episodes. All the fun stuff to help promote the show so other people might see it. Share it with your friends and play it on repeat or whatever. And until next time, be excellent to each other. And this is Music Free Static signing off.